It's Only Sport with Martin Devlin on the platform. Brought to you by One New Zealand. Let's get connected.
So close for Australia. Christy Doran joins us. 144. Christy, well, what the hell are we meant to make of that? The All Blacks should have won that game a hell of a lot easier. And once again, we have all these struggles at the back end of it. Or should we be praising Australia for overcoming that 21-point early deficit and the way that you finished the game?
G'day, Marty. Well, if you ask Joe Schmidt, he'll tell you that there's not much water left in the glass, because we asked him in the post-match press conference, are you half glass full or half glass empty kind of guy at the end of that, because it was a wild affair, wasn't it? And look, I reckon the All Blacks probably should have put 50 on the Wallabies, and they should have had 50 after 60 minutes. The amount of opportunities that they blew, it was extraordinary. And obviously Damien McKenzie coughed up a couple of those, but you do have to tip your hat to the resilience of the Wallabies and then the ability to kind of seize the moment there. And they almost ran over the top of the All Blacks, which is pretty extraordinary. The fact that they were trying to run down the clock with about 5 minutes to go and playing very, very narrow. But blimey, like it was extraordinary, the turnaround, given that it was 21-0 after 15 minutes.
Yeah, and the worrying thing is when you have recurring patterns, and for the All Blacks, that's 6 tests out of 8 now where we haven't been able to score in the last 20 minutes and just haven't been able to get any kind of control of the game at that point. No,
certainly not. And look, you've got to say the leadership is not standing up, and it's probably leadership in those crucial playmaking positions, both at 9 and at 10. Like, it's one thing when you've got Cortez Radama starting, but you would have thought that TJ Perenara, all the experience that he's got, that he would be a sounding board. I know that defensively he stood up on the weekend, a couple of good shots, including on Tate McDermott. But yeah, Damien McKenzie is really coming under the microscope, isn't he? Because for you not to be able to get yourself to play in the right end of the park, for the Artie Sevilla being held up over the line when there's an opportunity out the left. There was just so many moments there where a simple catch and pass, draw and patch, ends up seeing you score at the other end, and generally speaking under the sticks as well. So you're right, it's an amazing statistic. And you think about the All Black sides of the past, they were always able to capitalise, and the minutes before and after half-time, and certainly probably the last 10 minutes of a match where they would run away with it. But not so under Scott Robertson thus far.
Look, it's not for a lack of experience, and I know that, the narrative that has been force-fed us at the moment is, it's a new side and it's new coaches. I mean, well, how much longer can, they keep ploughing with that? And you've got 8 test matches now. I mean, surely that's enough time for any new coaching group to impose themselves on a bunch of players. And then at the end of the match, we've got at least 3 All Black captains out there on the field. So again, I refuse to buy into that.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point. I think Wellington, this is a test where the ABs over the last, probably ever since the Lions of 2017, Wellington has just not been a happy hunting ground, has it? So, we know that they lost earlier this year to Argentina, wasn't it? They've lost a couple of years ago there as well. So haven't performed well against Ireland at home. If the All Blacks can manage to turn it around, it's got to be now. The Wallabies historically are terrible across the ditch. They haven't won there, of course, since 2001, isn't it? So I would be thinking that Beauden Barrett will return. It's his former home ground. Artie Sevilla will have his tail up playing there. They should be really thinking we've got to make a statement here, because thus far and heading up to the Northern Hemisphere, I think sides up north, for the first time ever, will be thinking, all right, we'll welcome the All Blacks. This is an opportunity to get a couple of monkeys off our back at the moment.
Well, you got to think that, don't you? Because as I said, it's recurring patterns, and it's something that, this coaching group hasn't been able to, well, I don't know what the correct way or the word is to use, but they just haven't been able to put their own stamp on this. And ultimately, who is to blame when it unravels in the last 20 minutes? Is it those up in the coaching box, or is it those on the field? I always point first to those on the field and go, come on, you guys, you've played enough test matches. Most of you have known each other and played around each other for a very long period of time. Surely you know what to do in the last 20 minutes, which is just maintain, contain, keep the ball, kick territory, and just apply the most basic pressure of a test match.
Yeah, well, I think discipline is one of the areas that they really struggled with in that last 20 minutes, didn't they? They allowed the Wallabies to come back and to get down to 13 men there at one point in time. They did well to not concede immediately there when Caleb Clark gets shown a yellow. That was just a clumsy one. He wasn't that close to a intercept, was he? It was, he probably had to do it because it might have been a 3-on-1 overlap there. But I just think that you've got to take it back to basics almost. And, if you're just trying to work towards a penalty around the set piece or in tight, draw an offside, and then bank a couple of 3 points, because they've got to actually change it. And you can't tell me, all the New Zealand media this week will be asking Razor and the New Zealand side once again, what happens to that last 20 minutes? What happens to that last 30 minutes? Because you're right, it is a theme, and they will know about it. They will try to understate it. We hear that all the time. There's not too much. There's opportunities out there. The reality is they haven't been able to convert any opportunities. So I would be just taking it back a notch and trying to simplify it out there. But it is extraordinary when you've got all that firepower out there. Guys like Severeese, I know that he started, but he was listed to come off the bench. Harry Plummer is a great organiser of rugby. Does he deserve an opportunity at 10 at some point in time? There's all these sorts of questions at the moment, because currently Damian McKenzie, midway through the international season, he's definitely, I think he's probably gone backwards in terms of your pecking orders of 10s. I know that he's still there at the moment, but you can't be telling me that in 12 months' time or in the start of next year's test season, when the All Blacks are going to have a big international year, that Damian McKenzie is the number 110 at the moment, and that's a real concern. What is it, 8 test matches or 7 test matches into this international season?
Devlin.
You've got to love sport.
The platform.
Frankie, this is a remarkable win for Los Pumas. You must be delighted with that.
It has been a very big win, very important. Well, it just shows that Felipe Contepomi knows what he's doing, because basically with with most of the same players as last year in the World Cup, they can play rugby this time, and it's very good. It's really good.
What were the keys to the win in your mind?
I think basically we found a fly half. Argentina, our first five. Argentina hadn't been playing with a real first five for a few years. Michael Cheika was convinced that the first five was Santiago Carreras, who's a great player, and he deserves to be in the team or in the 23, because he's a really good player, but he wasn't a natural first five. And now with Tomás Albornoz, it's just like a new dimension. It's a new speed. It's a new vision. It's they play much better. He can make them play in the side of the field that they want to play in. And then the forwards, they were incredible yesterday. They were just competing every ball, and they took it to the Springboks, and maybe they didn't have their first side, but we're all now acknowledging that they have three. They could select 3 teams of equal standard and measure. So yes, it's things that are starting to happen. The wheels are in motion. They beat the All Blacks in New Zealand. They beat the Wallabies. They should have won both games, but they won one. But the one they won was incredible. And now the Springboks. Now the next Everest is an Everest. It's way too high. But going to Nelspruit to beat them will be a big ask.
Yeah, so, at what stage does the rest of the rugby world, does everyone in the Rugby Championship have to sit up, take notice? I mean, when you beat all 3 teams in this mini tournament, I mean, that says everything, doesn't it?
It does, and I'm just thinking about it right now. I don't have an answer, but I'd love to see or to find out when Australia did that. I don't think they've done it in many, many, many years, so it's really big. And again, we always start with what will happen. We don't know what will happen, how the team will perform, how they'll show up, and whatever. And we beat the All Blacks, and then the following week we took like 40 points or whatever. So we're not very good at comebacks or second games, but it's happening. And I guess we need to take our hats off to the coach, to Felipe Contepomi. He did his apprenticeship in Leicester. He did his apprenticeship here first with Jaguares. It wasn't a good experience for players and himself. Then he did something with Argentina 15. That went a bit better. Then he went to Leinster. He learned the trade. He learned what needed to be learned. He came back. He did a bit more apprenticeship with Michael Cheika. And when he was given the head coaching job, there were a lot of people that were saying that he shouldn't be there, that he was there because he was friends with or whatever. And what a way to silence your critics.
17-0 down and then turning it around to win, 29-11 from that point on, and obviously 29-28. So, what was the key to that, do you think, coming back from that early deficit?
Well, they had a spurge of 2 very quick tries. That always helps. So you're cutting that difference very quickly. But then again, 17, I was talking with someone earlier today, and 17-0, it's no longer such a big difference because you scored a try, you convert it, and suddenly it's 10 points, and 10 points is convert a try and a penalty. You get a penalty, or you get, and you get closer and closer, and it's a game of momentum at the moment. I mean, it's if the wind is on your back and things start to click and the other team starts to get nervous and they give away points and whatever, basically they didn't get desperate. I mean, they knew they could come back, and they came back. The game could have been lost if Manny Libbok had missed that penalty, but hey, we won, so
you're banking.
Who cares?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Where do you put this victory in terms of all the Argentinian victories? And we've talked about when you first beat the All Blacks in Australia. We've talked about winning here in New Zealand, Christchurch for the first time, and then of course winning in Wellington again this year, a fantastic win, 4 tries again in that game. So where do you put this victory?
I think this victory will have to be put with the 3 of them in the same bag. It's not one win. It's 3 wins. If it makes any sense. This is going to be big. We beat the defending champions, which we've never done, at home by a point. It was epic. It was whatever. But it's never going to be alone, because it's going to be the year when we beat the All Blacks, the Wallabies, and the Springboks. So in a bit, it's unfair not to take it as an individual win. But it's 3 wins, not consecutive, but it's 3 key wins. So I believe it's going to be always going to be taken in like a third of what was a massive season.
Frankie Deges is with us out of Argentina, great mate of the show that he is. And when you add this to a semi-final appearance at the World Cup last year, it's been a real golden 12 months, hasn't it?
It has been, if you put it that way. But again, I have to say that the team this year is playing way much better than in the World Cup. In the World Cup, they made it to the semi-finals, and that was great. But they were very well beaten by the All Blacks in that semi-final. I think we spoke that week in the build-up. Not only that, I think the only big win they really had was against Wales in the quarterfinals, and that was massive, and it was epic with that Moroni tackle in the last few minutes and whatever. But they were awful against England. England played 70 minutes with 14 players, and Argentina couldn't find a way out. They didn't have a structure, or if they had, it was hard to understand what they were trying to play. And unfortunately, as I was saying earlier, they had a fly half first 5, not out to a position, because he also plays at times for his English club at 10, but he someone that doesn't really understand what is needed in that position for the way Argentina wants to play. So it has been, result-wise, incredible 12 months. But I think it's 2 different teams with many of the same players. But even then, we brought new players in, and they've all been up to the task. So yeah, it's a great time for Argentina rugby.
It's Only Sport with Martin Devlin on the platform. Brought to you by One New Zealand. Let's get connected.